How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Bill, and in today's video, finally tearing into the front end of the Bronco. If you've seen the last couple of videos, you knew I kind of grenaded my front diff. Managed to find one thanks to Mud Digger Off-Road, and so I'm going to tear this front end apart. Probably not going to do a whole lot of in-depth information about tearing this apart, because I've done, this will be the third or fourth time I've torn the front part. I've torn the suspension apart, so I'll probably just kind of speed through that. Check out any of the other videos. I'll put them up in the corner or down in the description below for doing the different lift kits. It's going to be the same as far as tearing things down to the suspension. Once I start getting into actually pulling the axles off and pulling the diff out and everything, then I will start recording, because we haven't done any of that yet, and so I want to make sure that we get that covered. Now, a couple of quick updates. I don't know if you see the shirt. Yes, let my mistake be your guidance. I've had a few people ask me about this shirt, about doing a shirt or doing any merch or anything like that. It feels weird doing that, but you guys have asked for it, so this is the first. We got a couple other designs that are in work, so if you're interested, there's a link down in the description below where you can get your own shirt. There's other colors. Yeah, this one, pretty close match for being a non-metallic cotton shirt, but they are awesome t-shirts. Links down in the description, shop.eviltruck.com. if you're interested in getting some, and more designs are on their way. One last other thing before I start tearing things apart is I just did a small sample section here, and so here's the hood. It's really even hard to pick up on camera, but right here there's a strip of Expel, and even with it not being blended, I could see it perfectly clear here, that I could see the edges. But on the camera, it's not even picking that up that well. But yeah, just some clear Expel to see how that would look. And then here is the Stealth Expel PPF, and this one shows up better on camera. I kind of get an idea of what the Stealth PPF would look like on the Cyber Orange. I'm kind of liking that, but at the same time, I really like the gloss. There, now you can see the edge there, but I really do like this OEM color. I've thought about doing different wraps and stuff like that, but I really like this color and I want to stick with it. And so I was debating between Stealth or Gloss. I think I'm leaning towards the Gloss. The Stealth is cool, but I think after a amount of time, I would be sitting there trying to polish that and get it into a nice shine. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Would you do the Stealth or just go Gloss with your PPF? Enough of me rambling. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing on jack stands, get the wheels off, start tearing the front end apart, and then we will pick up once we start getting into the new territory. What I did is I went ahead to take drain the fluid from the diff. So yeah, you see from the magnet how much metal shavings there are. There's like almost full gear teeth here. So yeah, that's pretty good sign that that's messed up. Trying to pull this axle out on this side, and I ended up having to take the caliper off because I was stretching too much on this line and I couldn't get this to come out. And the reason being, it wasn't as flexible as the other side for some reason. Now, if we look up here, that's nice and easy. Everything wiggles around like it should. This end here, it's not wanting to do. It's pretty jacked up. So not only did we mess up the gearbox, we did mess up this CV axle, it seems, on the driver's side, which not big surprise there. Which made this a little harder to get off, so I ended up having to take, like I said, I had to take the caliper off and the ABS line, just disconnect that up here and pulled the wiring out of the harness for there, just so I could get a little bit more play. And then I was about to take the knuckle off, but just once it dropped down a little bit, once the lower ball joint dropped off a little bit and just being held on there by the nut barely, once that dropped down, that gave me enough wiggle room to actually be able to get this out of there. So now we just got to pull it from the gearbox itself. I just used 2 pickle forks, one on each side of the axle, and kind of wedged one in on this side and one on this side, so you can apply equal pressure. Just kind of give it a little there it goes. There. Snaps out past the ring, then it should just slide right out. But yeah, we can see the difference in the movement here and the lack of movement. I mean, I can move it, but it is not a pretty sight. It's does not feel good in the hand. It feels gritty. It feels gritty and chunky trying to move that around. Now we have the gearbox. We've got the axles out of it. We've got to disconnect the drive shaft, remove the mounting bolts, and it's ready to come out. Went and got a T45 this morning. It's the next morning. We got the 6 bolts out. Now I'm just kind of wedging the drive shaft out. I got a zip tie around the actual drive shaft, and then there's 2 gaps here on this collar. So I just kind of rotating back and forth and prying a little bit on each side. Try to keep it level or even. Should just pop out now. There we go. And then, like I said, I got a zip tie here just to keep this from hanging down too far or getting damaged or anything. So now that's done. It's out of the way. We got 2 bolts here, which are kind of hard to see. I think they are 18 millimeter. Now I'm gonna get the jack underneath here, take those bolts out. Well, I'm going to loosen all the bolts. So I got the mounts. I'm going to break the torque on all the bolts, get everything kind of loosened, get the jack into place, and then start taking the bolts out. But I want to go ahead and get them all loose first. It's times like this I really wish I had a lift that I could make stuff like this a little Got those out, and those were right back behind here. Got this mount here bolt loosened up. I could probably just go ahead and pull that out. Is this mount here, which I've backed off. That's a 13 millimeter. It's like the one odd sides thing. And then this connector, electrical connector, this took me much longer to take off than I would like to admit. But it's got one of these locking tabs on there that you got to pull out, and then you can push here on the center. And then, I don't know how well you can see there, and then it'll slide off. It's just got one tab on the top. You got to pull that red tab out and then get on top. I said it took me way longer to get that figured out. I didn't want to break the adapter, pull any wires or anything. There's this one little plastic piece that was right here. And it's just this here. Once I pulled that off, it made actually seeing up there a little easier. So, oh, and we got the drain tube. Got to disconnect that and pull this out, and then everything should just be resting on the jack right now. Now comes the moment of truth. Hopefully this just lowers down without too many issues. All right, and of course not. It's catching on something on that side, so let me there we go. And we're out. All right, so not the most graceful procedure, but it's out of there. So now it's time to tear this thing apart and see what all we got on the inside of this. We've got a perfect match. The only thing different is the serial number, obviously. And well, one big difference. If I move this one around, it doesn't sound like anything. If I move this one around, it sounds like a baby rattle. There's all kinds of stuff moving around in there. Let's tear this apart and see what it looks like in there. Nothing that shows me that this should not easily just come apart, and I should be able to just change out the gears if I had new gears. So I got the rest of the bolts out. Just used a little chisel to break open the seal. Now ready to break this thing open and see. Holy, yeah, that's that's something. Pinion completely, jeez, man, it's just completely shredded. Ring gear. Yeah, so this thing is completely shredded. Yeah, it's pretty safe bet that that's where the grinding noise is coming from. As far as I could tell, everything with the steering rack seems okay. I mean, the tie rod end doesn't seem like it's bent out of whack or anything. I have a feeling maybe when it impacted on this side, it might have skipped a tooth in the steering rack and is off. So I got everything apart. I got the replacement here. You know, everything else, obviously the front diff is jacked up. This CV axle is messed up on the driver's side, and so it's not far stretch of the imagination to assume that the steering rack, something is jacked up. Either it's bent a little bit, it skipped a tooth, or something. So I'm going to take this rack out. It's just you can see not much to it. Once you got the tie rod ends disconnected, you got two big bolts that go through, a couple of wiring, and then the actual, whatever you want to call the damn thing, the steering linkage. Wow, I can't think right. Just loosen this 10mm here. Should be able to slide that off. And then disconnect the power cable. Pull those bolts out and the whole thing should come down. Fairly easy, I would imagine. Well, I was going to be here for a long time. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's actually a divot in here. So you got to take the bolt all the way out because it actually rests in there as another safety to keep it from falling out if anything comes loose. So you actually have to remove the bolt completely from here because it actually keeps that in there. So now that we got that loose, we should be able to pull this whole thing out. Alright, so it's 3 full turns here, lock to lock. So center is a turn and a half from either side. So these are both lined up. This is shifted over a 1/4 inch completely from that one when they're in the same position. Makes me think that, yeah, that did get kicked over and skip a tooth. Hopefully just skipped a tooth and everything's in good shape. But interesting. So yeah, I think we put this new one in. That's going to straighten the steering wheel back up, and then get the new gearbox in, put the new CV axles in. I think we're going to be running good. Well, that kind of sucked, but no, it wasn't too bad. It's just very awkward to do with one person and without a lift. Times like this, I would love to have a lift, but made do with what we got. Was able to get it in. Now, I have no clue to what the torques are for this. I'm going to look to see if I can find it. But I mean, we got the steering rack in, we've got the diff in, all the bolts are in, kind of snugged up. I'm trying to find the torques, what the torque specs are for all of that. Not a whole lot available, so probably what I end up doing is just finding, if I can't find them, I'll just see what the specs are for the Ford Ranger, because it's probably going to be really similar, if not exactly the same as what they are for the Ranger. So I'm going to take a look at their specs for that, which should be easier to find if I can't find them for the Bronco, and I'll just go with those specs and just make sure everything's tightened down. So the rest is just buttoning everything back together. Again, if you're not sure how to take the suspension apart and you're interested, there's a link to a video up here where I've taken it apart. Probably not going to bore you with a whole lot of that. Maybe I'll do a time lapse or something of that. But for now, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get showered. It's getting close to dinner time. Me and the missus are going to go out, hang out for a bit, and then I'll probably get back to this tomorrow and put everything back together. Good morning, guys. I'm back at it. So happy New Year. Last night, today's New Year's Day. It'll probably be still a couple of days by the time I get this uploaded, but you know, happy New Year's. I tried finding torque specs for everything and I was unsuccessful, so like I said, I'm just going to go with the Ford Ranger torque specs. They might not be perfect, but they'll probably be pretty close. I'm not going to go ahead and say, I'm not going to call out each torque that I'm doing because I don't know if they are correct and I don't want to put the wrong information out there. Although I have before, unknowingly though. But no, I don't knowingly want to put bad information out there. It's pretty simple, just taking that, getting the splines lined up and pushing it in there like so. Should just be able to I just feel like I'm using the old like Thigh Master whenever I do something like this to raise the jack with my leg. But let's see, we got the spindle through. Grab the nut and put it on there. I'm gonna leave it loose though because I don't want to pull apart the new CV axle. So I'll go ahead, put the bolts in under here, start putting the caliper back on, and
I'm trying to steal everybody's ideas, so I need to know.
all right. So the gear oil, it's this ADW90. Pumped it in until it's full and starts dripping out, and then just put the plug in. Yeah, the fill holes on this side, the drain holes on the other side a little bit lower if you need to drain it to change your fluid out. Trying to use one of these pumps and not spill it all over the place. But yeah, I think I'm going to clean up my mess, go through, torque all the bolts, put the skid plate back up there, double check all the bolts, and I think we're done. We're back on the ground. Got the big wheels on here for now. I take these and get the TPMS sensors installed. Still haven't done that. I do have the beauty rings off being powder coated, so I'll get those put on there. But I'll go ahead and get the TPMS sensors done first. That way they don't screw up the beauty rings. I forgot how massive and heavy these things are, so thank you for Hoosier Bronco for helping muscle those on. Well, he muscled them on. So those things are heavy. Thing looks super squatted right now since I have the whole front end apart. I'll go take it for a maiden voyage and make sure that it works, and see if we can engage four-wheel drive without a bunch of clacking and braking and all that good fun stuff.
What are you in right now?
4 high.
All right.
Put it in neutral, shift to 4 low, ready to go. Let's try and take
Oh,
off.
wow.
So my steering wheel's off a little bit. I'm not perfectly straight. It's not as bad, so it did bring it back a little bit. I still need an alignment, obviously, but no codes. Four-wheel high work great. Four-wheel low work great. Think we're back in business.
All right.
All right, so there we go. We got the Bronco back to being a four-wheel drive vehicle once again. So again, huge thank you to Nate at Mud Digger Off-Road, because without those parts, completely would not be possible. As far as this being a non-serviceable unit, I disagree. It's perfectly serviceable. You just need the parts. So the fact that Ford calls this a non-serviceable part and that you can't just order the parts to fix it is that's a little bit bogus, I think. But that's, you know, not saying anything bad about the dealership whatsoever. They got to do what Ford tells them they got to do. You know, that's the part that they need to order from Ford is the entire unit. So they did what they're supposed to do, and Ford hasn't, as far as I know, Ford hasn't even replied. So I don't know what the deal is. I gotta have a conversation with the dealership now and be like, hey, I know you were working on warranty, seeing if it was covered under warranty, and trying to find the parts and everything. Well, don't worry about it anymore. So I have to have that conversation still with the dealership. I think they'll be open come Monday. I'll give them a call and talk to them. You know, I did put the bigger wheels and tires back on. Haven't had those on in a while. They are better. They are actually mud tires, even though they're my show tires. We show wheels and tires. They are mud tires. Not that I'm going to go mudding in them, but I wanted to put those on so I could go get the TPMS sensors taken care of, because they're needed. And I'm going to sell this wheel and tire setup. These have been decent. I'm not going to say I absolutely love them. They're good. They're decent tires. They're the weight and the size and everything. I like the way they look. They drive great on road. They're a little bit noisy on the road. That would be my one complaint. But they are absolutely horrible in mud. So normally I'm going to keep the show tires on for regular car driving and everything, and I'm going to get a dedicated set of off-road wheels, so I'm going to go with a little bit less of an offset. These are a 0 offset, so I'll go with you know, probably like plus 25, like Sasquatch range wheel width, or offset, so like plus 25, plus 30, around there. That way I can also go with a 37 instead of a 35. So, and then which means that I'm going to be getting rid of these because I'm not going to need these. Super happy that we got everything working. I can do some driving around, make sure everything feels right, and see if there's any problems. Get some miles on it, go through, re-torque down everything, make sure everything's tight, and then talk to Ford about telling them, hey, you know all that stuff I told you I had a problem with? I no longer have a problem with it. So that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Give the video a thumbs up if you're happy to see everything back together again. I know I am. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.